What's going on, everybody? Today I've got a '08 Chevy Silverado that quite possibly has the strangest crank no start I've ever seen in my life. What I mean is, so key off, key out, okay, turn to give it the good old Chevy jingle. Come on. All right, we're key and accessory. You see the cluster kind of come on, the radio come on. If I turn this to start or to run, so watch the dash. Yeah, that's pretty strange. It doesn't do that start every time. I was able to get the key to turn on a couple times without doing it. Not looking like I'm gonna get to again though. And one of the times I did get a pre-scan done, and as you can see, there's a whole lot of no COM. There's EBCM, ECM, TCM, BCM, whole lot of things that don't communicate. Some things that do. But now, what is this that's communicating? Well, all of those are on the low speed side. So the single wire GM low speed line. So pretty much everything on high speed CAN bus is not talking. So it's kind of strange. Do we have a CAN bus issue causing this strange crank no start? I don't really know. But we definitely have a communication issue, so I'm going to address that first. If we don't have communication, how can the truck even begin to operate? So let me get the high-speed diagram pulled up, and we're going to go through and do a few checks and see if we can figure out this communication fault. Before we get into the diagrams, we're just going to do the basic ohm check. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the 60 ohm check, so we're going to do that. If I can get you guys set up here. All right, somebody's already broke the plug here for me, but so we're just going to pin between terminals 6 and 14 right here. Okay, if we just probe in here, look at this, we got 60 ohms. What does that tell us? Well, that tells us the network is good from one end to the other end. There's terminating resistor on one end and on the opposite end. And we've got a complete circuit. You can't always trust this to know that your circuits are actually good. Because if we take and go from, say, pin 6 to pin 5, which is ground, look at that, 61 ohms. If we go from pin 14 to ground, 1.5 ohms. So already I know terminal 14 here is shorted to ground somewhere. Whether, I mean, this could still be a bad module, it could be a harness issue, something. But that wire is shorted to ground, and that is definitely causing a no COM. All right, I want to apologize for all the road noise. I'm like 10 feet away from the highway, so sorry about that. But on the scan tool here, we've got the diagram pulled up. Let's just click on this to make it big. So we're in 6 and 14 on the DLC. We've seen that has 60 ohms. So network circuit is technically fine. From end to end, everything is fine. But we've seen from 14 to 5, which is ground, we have a short to ground. We've got 1.5 ohms. So we need to basically now divide this network in as much of a half as we can. We need to split it in half. And what I'm looking for is that ground, or that short to ground, to basically go away. So I know if my issue is on this side of the network or this side of the network. So on the diagram here, there's a two-page diagram. But on page 1 here, we've got our DLC, we've got our VCIM, which is OnStar module, body control module, transmission control module, and ECM. So on all of this, we can see from the DLC to the ECM. All right, so if I go back out of here and go to page 2, get this loaded. We can see on page 2 we've got transfer case, and this is 4-wheel drive. So there is a transfer case. There's the EBCM, a fuel pump control module, and then if it's got trailer brakes, no, we do not have trailer brakes, so we don't have trailer brake control module. So then we've just got our terminating resistor on the other end of the circuit. So kind of a good spot to split this is actually the transfer case control module. If I remember right, it's just right under the dash here. I'll need to look to make sure, but I'm pretty sure if I remember right, it's an easy one to get to, and we can just unplug that and see if our short to ground goes away or not. All right, there we go. So pulled up the replace procedure for the transfer case module, and it is just right down under the dash, pretty much kind of right behind where the DLC is. It's on a little plastic bracket. So it says that we've got to remove the knee bolster, but I think I might can just reach up in there and unplug it. If not, this knee bolster is very easy to get off. All right, so the module is right there. And I really didn't need to take all this apart. I could have just reached up through here and unplugged it, but I wanted y'all to be able to see in here. And what did I spot? Some aftermarket garbage. I have no idea what that is. I'm sure it's some kind of weird alarm. It looks like a siren, but I'm not gonna worry about that right yet. That might play an issue, might not. We don't know. But my module here, I know the data lines are in this top plug, if I remember right. So if I unplug this, let's see if anything happens here. Of course, the whole module is trying to come out instead of plug. There we go. It's unplugged. So we still have our short to ground. Let's see if our resistance changed to 120. No, we've still got 60, so might have been the wrong plug. Yep, I think it's the wrong plug. So let's go back over to ground. Okay. So apparently it's in the second connector, and oh, look at that. Resistance did change. So now we got 8K to ground. If we go back over here, this should be 120. Yes, okay. All right, so what have we now proven? We have proven that our short to ground is in that second page of wiring. So transfer case control module EBCM, I don't remember, yeah, fuel pump control module. So that is now what we need to do. We need to work our way down that line and figure out where this issue is. We need to narrow it down between two modules. On the diagram here, I know that this D is the pin 16 off the DLC, or 14 I mean, and it's coming into the transfer case module on terminal 4 and going out on terminal 12. So I need to know if the issue is basically in this module or external to this module. So if I go into pin 12, I should see if the issue is on this end of the diagram. I should see this shorted to ground still. So let's get you guys sit here, and right now I'm still in the DLC, so you can see we've got 8K. So if I take my lead out here and the terminals on the connector here, try and get this all set up, you can see this tan and black and tan right here, and it's either pin 4 or pin 4, I'm not really sure, but from the DLC I can go into terminal 16 here, or 14 I mean, and count off 4, and there we go. So now I know which terminal is what. If I go back over to my ground pin here, I've got that 8K that we've seen. So straight down should be my output side, which would be terminal 12. So if I count it off, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 13K. So that is not shorted to ground. Just to double check, I'm on the tan wire. If I go over here to the next pin over, still 13K. So if I come back over here, 8K and 8K. Ah man, so it's actually looking like this transfer case module is the issue. So let's see if I can get this thing on out here. Okay, let's plug this back up over here. So got 8K. Let's plug this back in. This plug is the one I unplugged first. This one's the one with the data lines in it. So if I plug this back up, there's my short back. Well, if I already know with this unplugged, I still had that short, but my power and ground comes in right here. So if I unplug this, look at that. Plug that back in there, short to ground, unplugged, goes away. We have that quickly determined this transfer case control module is internally shorted to ground from the data line to ground. That fast. Just using an ohm meter. No fancy stuff on this one. So sometimes an ohm meter is pretty powerful. And GM, I love the way they do their CAN bus lines, daisy chained in and out of modules. It makes these systems so efficient to diagnose. So what I want to do now is I actually want to just leave this unplugged and see, since my data lines are now correct, I want to see if I have communication with things and if I still have this crazy start thing, this crazy crank. So let me hook the battery back up because I do have the battery unhooked. Anytime I'm doing these ohm checks with the data lines, I leave the battery unhooked. That way modules are not trying to turn on, wake up, and throw off my ohm readings. So let me get the battery hooked back up. Battery is hooked back up. Let's give this the good old Chevy jingle. No. Okay. So still in the start position, or in the on position, it's trying to crank. So this thing has more issues than that one module that we've already proven is bad. Let's keep going with it. All right, so I got a starting diagram pulled up here to just try to walk through this diagram and see if I can even make sense of how this thing is starting when the key is in the on position. See if I can make sense of it. I'm not having very good luck with it. So as you can see, we've got the ignition switch here, right in the middle of the diagram, and position 3 is connected to the BCM. It says it's labeled ignition, but we see it's got that resistor in there. So in position 3, there should be 5 volts passing through the switch, through the resistor, back into the BCM. And I think they may just have it mislabeled as ignition there, because that's a start circuit. I'm not really sure why it's labeled ignition. Maybe positions 1, 2, and 3 are all tied together through different resistors. It's a good possibility. Not really sure. But either way, position 3 goes through a resistor into the BCM, and that communicates over data to the ECM to then turn the starter relay on. Well, if we had no data, how is it talking? Well, that line is actually low-speed data. If it was CAN bus, you'd see the two wires together, but we've only got the one, so that's the low-speed line connected between the two. So I really need to pull this starter relay out so it won't be trying to start it, and see if we've got our high-speed communication back. And that way I can talk to the ECM, hopefully, and see what it sees in data that's causing this starter relay. Maybe I even talk to the BCM and see if it's seeing that third position turned on or something like that. So that shows to be in the fuse box under the hood. So let's go out here to the fuse box here, and we are a gas motor, starter relay there. So this guy right here, that should keep the starter from running. All right, so yes, keys on, and I got to put my scan tool back up and see if we've got communication again. Well, as you can see, we've still got no high-speed comm. So, time to break the scope out now. We have the Pico set up here, and I'm just back probed into the connector here. Channel A is high-speed positive, I believe, and channel B is high-speed negative or low, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just grounded here because it'll work. And on the Pico, you can see our data lines are flatlined at strange voltages. Channel B is a little over 3 volts, and channel A is a little below 2 volts. Key is on. You can see the dash is lit up. Some lights are on, but we've got no activity on the network. The lines are stuck. So once again, let's see if we can split this network in half and see if we can get some activity going. That's the name of the game now. Unplug things one at a time until we get some network activity, hopefully. So since I already have this out and this does split the network pretty much in half, let's just unplug it. Okay, look at that. We've got some network activity now. Let's see if on the scan tool we can actually get some communication, because I wasn't able to before. I had to put the VIN number back in manually. So let's hit the back button and let's rescan this. Still no ECM comm. Oh, we got a TCM now. That's good. Of course, we don't have a transfer case control module because I've got it unplugged now. Do we got BCM? We got BCM talking. Yay. Okay. So, no fuel pump control module. That's on the other half of the network. So basically, anything from the TCC or TCCM, transfer case control module, towards the back of the vehicle is not going to communicate. And I'm fine with that. I wanted to see, do I got BCM, transmission, and ECM? And I do have at least BCM and TCM talking. So that narrows it down some. So with the ECM, we could be having a power or ground issue as well, or another faulty module. But we definitely have another module faulty from the transfer case backwards. So to rule out if it is still the transfer case, I want to actually bypass it. Just gonna put some jumper leads in it and see if we can restore communication to everything back towards the back of the vehicle without losing our data line. All right, so you can see we've got kind of a terrible looking data packet still, but got one wire I need to jump together here. It's kind of hard, but getting that all jumped together. So basically just jumping from one side of the connector to the other, and you see our data goes back flat. If I unplug it, data comes back. So the transfer case module is not what's flatlining our data, so we can actually plug it back up and continue down the line to see what is now causing that. We really only have two other modules to worry about. We've got the EBCM here and the fuel pump flow control module here, because we don't have trailer brake. So the next logical thing is basically just unplug either that one or that one and see if something happens with our lines here. And really, unplugging this one does no good, because I've got it unplugged here, I've jumped together here, and I ended up with that. So unplugging that is only going to tell me if now with that plugged up right here, if that happens or not. So really, that one's not important to unplug. This one's the important one to unplug, the fuel pump control module. And that is back under the bed. So let's see. Oh man, if I didn't even get in here under here to this thing. Yeah. Am I gonna be able to get it with the spare tire on here or not? Not sure. Nope. Gonna have to lower the tire. Well, this is actually affecting the data somewhat. Since the spare tire's got to be dropped, I went ahead and unplugged the EBCM. And look what happened to our data. It's kind of stuck at 5 volts. So there is something going on with this module. It might be power feeding into this thing, trying to ground, and we don't have a ground, because I'm pretty sure that right there is an ignition, I think. So let me find the fuses to this thing, pull them, and see if this goes away, gets back down to normal. Kind of cheated a little bit. I took the valve core out of the stem there. I already stuck it back in there, but I let the air out of the tire so I could get in here with a pry bar and push the tire over and get it unplugged. I then plug the EBCM back up. So let's see what our data line looks like now. Yep, still an issue. What does that pattern look like? Well, elevated voltages and offset. I kind of feel like that's going to be a bad EBCM as well. We could be dealing with a terminating resistor issue, but I'm not really thinking so. I think even with only the one terminating resistor, that should still be correct. We should still be at 2.5 volts, maybe just a little over as far as our bias line goes. So this thing has multiple modules failed. I'm kind of leaning towards a lightning strike vehicle here. This is starting to look like a prime candidate for a lightning strike. So let's see if we can do something and figure out a way to get some communication back to the ECM, or see if it's dead. So I've got a wiring diagram pulled up for the ECM to find out what it needs to communicate. And we're just going to go through and check our powers and grounds, make sure this thing has everything. We already know it should be connected data line wise because it's got a terminating resistor in it, and we had 60 ohms. So we're just going to verify powers and grounds. If those are good, we're going to say this is a bad ECM. So on the diagram, we've got a ignition feed, a battery feed, and then the powertrain control module or powertrain relay that is turned on by the ECM. So I've actually just got one of my test light bulbs here on the 5 amp setting, and it is pinned into the turn on wire and then just grounded here. So I can tell that this ground is at least somewhat good, because whenever I plug this in, I could hear it click. Not sure if y'all can hear that, but I can hear the relay click. So let's just check these powers, and we need pin 18, 20, and 47. And this connector is actually numbered. I'm not real sure if it's gonna show up, but there's a 53 right there, and there's a 1 right there. Can't really see it, but that's 1. Counting them off, that's 16. So 17, 18. This should be our ignition. And I do got the key on, so that bulb is lit. And then 2 more should be our battery. So right there, that is lit up bright. And then now all we've got to know is if this is working, which is pin 47. So if that is 53, This one should be 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, and 47. And that one also works. So there we go, confirmed ECM, transfer case control module, and more stuff. This one's kind of a nightmare for customer. It is probably not even worth trying to fix this thing. So this is probably where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to get with the customer, tell him what all I found so far and how much further it could possibly go. And we'll see what he wants to do with it. So if he wants to go further, we'll go further, but we're going to have to get a few modules on here, you know, to at least get some kind of things working and go from there. But it's not looking good. So probably be the last we see of this truck. If not, we'll come back. All right, just quick update on this truck. We put a ECM in it, BCM, EBCM, transfer case control module, and a fuel pump control module. And we are now good to go. Almost. Let me show you. She cranks and runs, but ABS light stays on, and in a few seconds the check engine light will start flashing. We've got a wheel speed sensor, circuit fault, and a misfire on number 6. There it goes. So yeah, better than it was when I got here. I didn't think we was going to have to put a BCM in, but it ended up having some issues and we just got one put in here. But now, look at that CAN bus. Oh, it's not a Pico, but it works. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you guys later.